Doctor, I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous.
I hope the ears are a bit less conspicuous this time.
You might be a doctor, but I am
I'm a doctor, but probably not the one who looks good.
Absolutely fantastic.
All of time and space, everything that ever happened or ever will. Where do you want to start?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Big on the Inside, the new Who Doctor Who Watched On podcast. If you're all up to date, we have just finished Series 2 with Doomsday, so you can go listen to that. And now we're going to spend around about half an hour ranking the series, ranking Doctor Who Series 2, every episode, trying to put them in order. It's not a definitive list, and it's not a list that we both agree on. We've both done our own separate lists, so we're just going to compare and contrast to see what comes where on each other's lists. Oh, Harry's here as well. Hi, Harry.
Hi, Tim. How are you? How did you find ranking this series compared to Series 1?
Some episodes were definitively easy to rank than others, but then there's some stuff in the middle where I was like, well, I can't really separate this from that because they were just okay episodes. There was a lot of okays. There was standouts. There were some real bummers, but there was also ones that were just episodes of Doctor Who that you don't think twice about, but they were better than the dud ones, if you know what I mean.
I feel very similar. I think I'm going to predict now that our top of the list and bottom of the list, I think our number 1 and number 14, because we're also including the Christmas Invasion in Series 2,
yeah.
So there's 14. I think our number 1s and number 14s are going to be the same, but I think our middle is going to be completely different. Because Series 2 for me is a much more consistent series compared to Series 1. Series 1, kind of the ups and the downs are much more more noticeable, whereas here there's a lot of kind of strong, 7, 8 out of 10 Doctor Who episodes that make up most of the series. And so I'd say kind of the middle section, there's really hardly anything between them.
Definitely, yeah. So if we start at the very bottom, who wants to go first? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to list my bottom episode?
I mean, we've both put Fear Her, haven't we?
No.
Your bottom isn't Fear Her?
No, Fear Her is not near the bottom.
Really?
Yeah.
What is
your? You go first. You go first then with your bottom episode.
Okay, well, my number 14 is Fear Her. I just think I remember it scaring me as a kid. Nowadays, there's still bits of it that are interesting that hold up, but as a whole, it's kind of the episode that I am most likely to forget exists.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. I'm just looking to see where I've got it on my list. Okay, so that's interesting. My bottom episodes are The Impossible Planet and The Satan Pit.
I thought you'd say that.
Because I just could not get into those 2 episodes when we watched them. They were the one. So when we did Series 1, the one I was not looking forward to was the Charles Dickens episode. What's it called? An Unquiet Dead. I wasn't looking forward to that one, but when it came on, I really enjoyed it. And that was the biggest surprise. And I was kind of hoping the same thing would happen with this 2-parter, because I remember not being the biggest fan of it when I was a kid watching it. I thought, oh, now maybe I'm older, I'll get into it. But I just could not land an interest in these 2 episodes. There was just I can't remember why I didn't like it, because it's so hard to put my finger on. But I don't like the stories where they're trapped on a spaceship and they can't get off a spaceship. I feel it's really limiting to the story. And if you're not interested in the idea, and also because it's a mid-series, they're going to get off. They're going to be fine. Yeah. So I was like, I don't really understand the suspension, and the tension never really built for me.
I remember we kind of probably butted heads the most on this 2-parter, didn't we?
Yeah, because you quite liked it, I imagine. Yeah. Don't tell me whereabouts it came, but I know that you definitely liked it.
Well,
to me.
It's interesting you ask that, because you see, is that your number 14 and 13, that 2-parter?
Yeah. Well, I've registered it as 1.
Yeah. That's interesting, because my number 13 is The Impossible Planet.
Oh, okay.
Just The Impossible Planet is number 13.
Oh, right. Okay. Why is that?
I feel like as the story as a whole, I like it, but looking at them individually, The Impossible Planet is a lot weaker. It's very, very slow paced. Really, not that much happens. It's all build up. It's just all build up, and there's not enough kind of excitement in it for me as a standalone episode for me to justify putting it any higher.
Okay.
It kind of very much relies on its second part to work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I remember when we watched it, I remember saying that this could have just that whole first episode really could have been fitted into 5 minutes, and you could have had a really good episode. I think that's one of the reasons I didn't like it. It was 2 episodes where it could have been one really good, intense episode.
Yeah, and on reflection, I'm inclined to agree with you there. That I feel like it could have functioned as one episode. It wasn't necessary.
So next on my list, I've got Tooth and Claw. I like the werewolf, but there is it seems really distant to Doctor Who. It doesn't seem like a Doctor Who thing. It seems like a script that's been lying around, and they've gone, "Oh, just adapt that into a Doctor Who thing." You know what I mean? It's like there's the werewolf, there's Queen Victoria, but apart from that, there isn't much Doctor Who-ness apart from the Doctor being there, if you know what I mean.
Is the werewolf even an alien, or is it just a regular werewolf?
He's he's like the monk guy, isn't he? He's in that cage and he transforms into a werewolf. And here's the thing:
is the monk guy an alien, or?
Well, there's the actual monks, aren't there, who do all the karate and like in the grounds of the church. And then, like, when Sir Robert's doing his story, he's saying that the monks come and they take children one child every 10 years or whatever. I can't remember now. And then that kid becomes the werewolf. And I think that would have been more of an interesting story than the story we actually got. The origins of the werewolf was more exciting than the story with the Doctor interacting with the werewolf. Not to say there are some great bits in it, but I just felt that it just didn't feel Doctor Who.
I've just noticed something. Your 2 bottom stories,
yes,
both have the common theme of they're about the Doctor and their companion being stuck in one place, and there being a dangerous thing they have to run away from within that one place. So you're not a fan of stories that are confined to one location?
I don't think I am, because there's an episode with Capaldi, and I believe it's a Clara episode where it's the Doctor, Clara, and Missy, and they spend all the time on a spaceship, and it's the episode where Missy steps out and she introduces herself as the Doctor, and she claims that she knows. And I remember that episode starting well. I think, this could be fun, and then very quickly just lost interest in it again. And there's one with Bill as well where it's very similar. They're in trapped on a spaceship. I can't remember what it's called now, but I think it's got Time Heist or something like that. I can't remember, but I found, I don't
like. I think you've got. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like you're getting a lot of your Capaldi era mixed up right there, because I'm sure the episode where Missy introduces herself as Doctor Who is an episode from series 10 with Bill.
Oh, is it? Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? I find them very limiting, and you sort of know going in that you're not going to experience a lot of new stuff. And it's going to be, not that there's anything wrong with very character-driven stuff, because at the end of the day, it should be character-driven, because that's why we watch the show. But when those characters maybe aren't necessarily as well developed or that interesting at that moment, or the supporting characters aren't interesting. Like, I really didn't particularly like the crew on the Impossible Planet. Like, the rest of that team, I didn't find them that interesting. And I think I would have found Tooth and Claw's supporting cast more interesting if they were given more time. But I just found them, I don't know. Yeah, I think you may be right. I don't like the confinedness of certain episodes.
Interesting. So is it my number 12 now?
Yeah, go for it.
It is. I know before I say this, I'm going to get a lot of flack for it. I'm going to get people. This is probably the most controversial placement in my list. My number 12 is The Girl in the Fireplace.
Whoa, big. Yeah, because you didn't like it. You didn't like it when we watched it.
There are going to be people, I know there's going to be people who say, oh, you're just some RTD fan. You're just a Moffat hater. No, I like Moffat. If you remember my Series 1 ranking, Empty Child and the Doctor Dances were way up there. They're some of the best Doctor Who stories ever.
Yeah.
The Girl in the Fireplace doesn't do it for me. There's a lot of cool stuff in this episode, a lot of stuff I appreciate, a lot of moments I appreciate. The whole thing just didn't come together for me. And there are certain elements of it that remind me of what become tropes within the Moffat era, which I was less keen on.
Yeah.
I do like Moffat, and there's a lot of things I like in this episode. For some reason, the whole package just didn't come together for me.
Well, I can't say I agree with you. We'll maybe see where that ranks on my list. Because in the same place, our list might slightly fall out of sync depending on where we've put two
I think
pies.
next is your number 11.
Yeah, I've got the Christmas Invasion next. Mainly because
low.
I sort of thought, is it an episode I particularly want to go back and watch? If I saw it on Gold or whatever, on Freeview or Sky, would I go, oh, I'll stay in and watch that, I'll go to the shops afterwards? No, not really. I would probably just skip it. I mean, it's not really, there are some good elements in it. Like I really like that it's a Jackie, Mickey, Rose story, and you get to explore their dynamic a lot, which is sort of abandoned throughout the series. But then, I don't know, it just doesn't, it's just very flat. And there's some really good characters and casting. Like we spoke to Daniel Evans. Sorry, I spoke to Daniel Evans, who plays Daniel Llewellyn in this episode. And he was great to talk to. And his character's really fun, and the stories they told, it seems like they had a great time on set. But just there is so much good in this series that it just doesn't fall into that category. And I also think maybe because it's a Christmas special, even it does distance itself from the rest of the narrative.
Do you think that another part of it is that obviously the Doctor has just regenerated and they're out of commission for the vast majority of the story?
I don't know. I don't think so. Not really, because I quite like the fact that he's not in it. I don't watch it going, oh, where is he? Where is he? Why isn't he in this more? I don't know. I don't think so, because I quite like the fact that he's not in it that much. Because I like Jackie, Rose, and Mickey.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, our lists are very different.
I know Series 1 lists, they were quite similar, if I remember rightly, but these ones are very different. So what have you got next?
Well, actually, in contrast to what I've just said, my 11 is what was your number 12. It's Tooth and Claw.
Ah, really? So how come you've got it a little bit higher, but also quite low?
Okay, honestly, I'd say that 11 through to 6 and 5 is a pretty, or maybe, 11 through to 6, I'd say is a pretty even playing field for me.
Yeah.
Because these are all episodes which I enjoyed. These are all good, solid episodes. Nothing which is like, wow, that's great, but like solid Doctor Who, I'm like, this is a good time. And Tooth and Claw is that, just to a slightly lesser extent than the others. I like this episode. I really enjoy kind of the back and forth between Ten and Rose in this episode, especially the stuff with Scottish or the Scottish accent. And
that's great. Yeah.
The Rose poking at Queen Victoria that we are not amused. Yeah. I guess the only reasons I can think for it being lower than others is perhaps, like you said, the monster, while it's impressive for the time, it is, like I said, it's a werewolf. I kind of wish they'd done something more interesting with the werewolf.
Yeah.
Alien werewolf or something. And also, like you said, other than Queen Victoria, who I think is like great fun, there isn't much to be said about the rest of the supporting cast.
Yeah.
But this is a solid, fun episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay, so next I wonder if we're going to overlap. I wonder if we're going to get at least one episode in the same place. I've got New Earth. I wrote down in my notes here that it was nice to see some returning characters. It's very much a End of the World. What's Series 2, Episode 1 called? It is End of the World, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is almost like a part 2 of that story. Face of Bo's back, Cassandra's back. But then the whole cat story and the zombies walking around, I know it just doesn't grip me that much, really. But then again, it's got some really good elements in it, like the start of the Face of Bo's trilogy of episodes with his next appearance in Gridlock, and this is his second outing. So I really like that, but that's only in hindsight, knowing what's to come. Without that, I don't necessarily know if I would have been massively excited about this. But then again, it's really great. It's a really great David episode because he gets to just muck around in it and do all sorts of silly acting, which is quite strange, really, considering it's his second episode. Well, first for series 2, but his second episode for him to feature in.
Yeah.
And that he's not even being the Doctor most of the time. He's being Cassandra or Rose.
Because it kind of speaks to maybe how kind of secure Russell felt in his casting of David, that he didn't feel he had to go out of his way to convince the audience that they were in safe hands with him.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you have in this spot?
In this spot, number 10, well, also number 9, because I've got the two-parter, The Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel.
Oh, lists
my 10 to 9.
Our lists are all over the place.
Okay, I'm guessing you have it way higher then.
So how come?
No, but like
how
again,
come? Why so low? Oh, what are we in the middle yet?
It's not so low. Like, this is like good. Like this is good. These are still good episodes. Like, this is a strong series because you are considering this low, but I think this is good. Like, these are good stories. Like, I think there's a lot to like about these episodes. I love Mickey. I love Ricky and his crime-fighting team. I think the alternate universe stuff is really cool. Obviously, the introduction to Cybermen is cool. It's weird because I feel like I need to justify why it isn't higher, but I can't think of any huge flaws. You know?
I was thinking that a bad episode, especially in series 2, a bad episode of Doctor Who is usually better than most good episodes of other programs. So the lowest, the worst episode you can think of Doctor Who is probably better than the best episode of some TV shows out there.
Yeah, like here, it's not like just like this episode. It's just elements in the episodes above it which I like more.
Yeah. Okay, I agree with that. Coming up next on my list, I've got Fear Hair. So it's quite low, but it's not totally low. Like a few similar ideas to what you said. Some cool ideas. I also like the fact it's not set in a too far future for its time of broadcast now in the past. I quite like that element. But then I feel like they could have done a bit more with it. And I feel like, it sounds horrible because she's a kid, but is it Chloe Latimer? What's the little kid called? Chloe Webster or Webber? Chloe Webber, that's it. Her like possessed voice. I couldn't get on board for. Where she's almost going, "Give me Chloe Webber," like that for like 45 minutes. It's quite annoying.
I feel like that was the reason why for me it was at the bottom. That was like, you know, the threat of the story, and in hindsight it wasn't that threatening.
Yeah,
I feel like I just expected too much of that child actress.
I think it would have been better if the kid was actually the alien, and that maybe the mother giving birth to an alien somehow, or that the father was an alien because he's not there and he's evil, so somehow she was actually just an alien to start with.
For some reason, you saying that, the thing that instantly sprung to mind was the CITV show "My Parents Are Aliens."
That'd be a great crossover. So what have you got? What have you got next?
This is my. I think. Was that your number 9 or your number?
I don't know.
8?
I haven't numbered these. I'm just going through them.
Right. Well, next up is my number 8, which I think now that was your number 9. So now I'm ahead of you. My number 8 is The Idiot's Lantern.
Oh, okay. So how come you've got it sort of in the middle almost?
Yeah, it pretty much is the slap bang middle episode for me. You know, it's a very Mark Gatiss pretty much always brings out a solid, reliable episode, and this one is too. I love the 1950s era. I think the supporting cast is really strong considering the little time we have with them. Like, there's characters like the family, the TV shopkeeper, which really stand out.
Yeah. Ricky Gervais.
I feel like the threat is just a really unique idea for a villain, and it kind of plays into like the anxieties about television at the time, rotting the brain, and I just think it's very cleverly conceived. I think it's a really strong episode. I initially, when I first made this list, I had it a bit higher, but I rejigged it. But this is a very malleable list. Maybe if we did this like a day earlier or a day later, it would be even higher.
Yeah. Okay. So next on my list, I've got Army of Ghosts, mainly because I don't feel a lot goes on, and maybe it gets a lot of its credit just because of what it sets up. Like I remember when we spoke about it, we said it's a pretty much nothing episode, but the last 10 minutes, the cliffhanger is amazing with the Cybermen and the Daleks both revealed. It's an amazing cliffhanger, which sort of makes you forgive the rest of the episode for not having much in it.
I feel like, yeah. I mean, evidently for me, that cliffhanger was a lot more influential in where I placed it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, but I liked it. It was a fun episode. Actually, maybe I should put it a bit higher. I won't rejig my list, but I do like that we get more Jackie in it, and I really like the. Oh, is that in Doomsday? Which is the one where they actually land in Torchwood, and the Doctor reaches.
That happens in Army of Ghosts.
Yeah, and he reaches in the TARDIS thinking he's grabbing Rose, but he grabs Jackie, and he has to pass her off as Rose, and everybody's just really insulting to Jackie throughout the episode by her age. So I liked that. Yeah, no, I think it's a good spot on my list. So what's next for you, Harold?
My number 7 is New Earth.
And so that's much higher than where I had it.
Well, here's the weird thing though, because when I first made this list, I was expecting, like, for me in my mind, like Tooth and Claw and New Earth are pretty much on the exact same level for me. Yeah. Which kind of speaks to the fact that there's that many episodes in between them, kind of shows how consistent this series is. Because those are both two, I don't want to say filler episodes, but like they're more episodic episodes by Russell.
Yeah.
That are both a lot of fun. Like, again, great chemistry between the Doctor and Rose. I think the thing that put it high for me is just the Cassandra taking over Rose and the Doctor's bodies. I just find that really entertaining, and I love how much fun Billy and David have with that. And when I think of this episode, those scenes are always the first things that jump to the front of my mind.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a fun episode. Yeah, okay, yeah, it is fun for those elements. Yeah, so I won't it's hard to disagree with you because like we said, each episode is good. There isn't really there are episodes I dislike more than others, but every episode has its key qualities, and I think it is just a personal preference of are those key qualities things you particularly like over other key qualities.
Absolutely.
So next on my list, I have The Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel. Mainly because the Cybermen are one of, if not my favorite Doctor Who villains. I really like the Cybermen, so it's great to see them. I really like Roger Lloyd Pack, who plays John Lumick, also Trigger from Only Fools and Horses. So that slightly swings it a little bit. I also like Jake, the character of Jake. I think he's great. I like the fact that it's set up as a parallel Earth. I like Rose's interaction with her father and her interaction with her mother, which is massively different to how it actually is on real Earth. I also like the fact that the Doctor and Mickey Rose and Mickey stand up to the Doctor when she's going, I'm going to go and find my dad, and he's going, I'm going to go and find my gran, and the Mickey's just like, we both know you ain't going to come after me. And I really like that. Oh, and also, how can we not talk about the amazing ending where Mickey says he's going to stay, and he stays with Jake? I think that is one of that's the most moving point in this series for me. It isn't when the Doctor and Rose are separated. It is when the Mickey and Rose are separated, because that's an actual friend. That was a relationship that had grown and then just slowly became a friendship. And to see it reach its peak, when we first meet Mickey and Rose, they're at their peak boyfriend-girlfriendness. And I quite like the fact that it's not a relationship we see build. It's a relationship we see not crumble, but slowly, gently fade away from each other.
Fizzle out, yeah.
Yeah, but whilst they're fizzling out, Mickey's growing. So it's almost like they're on a graph and they've crossed paths. And at this point where they've crossed paths, Mickey has just gone and done his own thing. And I think that's great.
Yeah. See, all that stuff you just said, for me, I overlooked a lot of that when I was ranking. And all those things you said, especially the stuff with Mickey, I feel like if I'd had that in mind, I might have put those episodes higher. That's the thing. Like,
have you ranked these recently then? Because I ranked them as we went along.
I ranked them last night.
Yeah.
Like looking holistically, I feel like that's the thing. Like when I remember individual bits from these episodes, I'm like, that's why this series was so hard for me to rank.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Harry? What have you got?
Number 6 for me is I think it's 6 or 7 spots above the Impossible Planet is the Satan Pit.
Oh wow, so a big contrast there for the two-parter. Why
just
is the
because
Satan? Why is the which one have you just said? The Impossible Planet.
the Satan Pit.
And why is
No,
the Satan Pit? Why do you prefer that to the Impossible Planet?
Well, like I said, the Impossible Planet took a very long time setting everything up. But the advantage that the Satan Pit has because of that is that it just gets to go straight into the action, just get going, and it's just kind of very, especially when the escaping from the base, it's just like non-stop, overcoming obstacles, escaping, losing people.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, there's the very intriguing stuff with the pit itself and the Doctor, and trying to come to terms with the idea that this kind of like devil or Satan is a creature that exists, and trying to come to terms with what it is, and the fact he doesn't come to terms with what it is, and he doesn't know what it is, and it's the mystery of that, and it ends on that very ambiguous note of Rose going to die in battle, and the Doctor just like his only answer being he lied, and we don't know whether or not he believes that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I like in this episode. I think this is just a really strong second part.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with your ranking. If I did rank them separately, Satan's Pit would be much higher than the Impossible Planet for those reasons you just gave. Next up, I have the Idiot's Lantern, mainly because all the reasons you gave, a really interesting villain, a really good historical one, really good supporting characters. But I also think it does a really good job, and it's probably the first chance you see it in this episode, is the Doctor and Rose are constantly separated throughout this series. But this is the first time it's really focused on the Doctor, and you get to see David Tennant properly going for his role as the Doctor. And I'd say it's probably one of the first times as well that role is really cemented, and it's really well done how you see his drive to save Rose, and when he sees her blanked out without the face, like just his drive to go and rescue her is great. And I also really like his relationship with the little kid Tommy as well. I think that's really well done. In Doctor Who, they often do a really good job at linking the Doctor with a child, maybe a young teenage actor, and their relationship on screen of sort of someone who's coming of age interacting with the Doctor, I always think comes across really well.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense because obviously most of the core audience of Doctor Who is kind of kids that age, so to offer that surrogate is really exciting.
Yeah. So I have 4 options left on my list now. How many do you have?
I have 5 left. So I'll say my number 5, and then we're both into our top 4.
Yeah.
So now my number 5 is the Christmas Invasion.
Oh, much higher. Oh, okay. So does this mean, I'm just looking at my top 4 here. Oh no, our top 4.
3 of our top 4 is the same.
Yeah, but maybe not in the right order. So that'd be interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's also interesting to see what's different there. Okay.
Okay. So the Christmas Invasion. I acknowledge what you said about it is a bit slow in places, I suppose. But for me, watching it never really felt slow. I think it's just because it's a Christmas special, and it feels even like when not much is happening, like it's Christmas. You know, they're out. Mickey and Rose are out doing Christmas shopping. Like Jackie's, got the tree that's then trying to kill him. It's Christmas. I'm a sucker for Christmas and Christmas imagery. And then like when it plays like the cheesy song at the end, and the Doctor's having Christmas dinner with all of them, and just. It always leaves me with a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Maybe I should have put it high just for that song at the end. Song for 10. I love that song. It's great.
And of course, like the whole scene with the Doctor when he's properly awake on the Scissorax ship.
Yeah.
And he's just like having so much fun. Like, I'm beaming.
No, it's fun.
I expressed so much in series 1, like how much of a fan I was of Christopher Eccleston, and the fact that kind of from that point episode onwards, I've almost forgotten about Chris. I'm totally on board with the 10th Doctor. And that's nothing against Chris. Like, speaks volumes for just how quickly and easily I warmed to David Tennant watching.
I saw an interview with Tennant where he said when he was filming his regeneration into Matt Smith, he said he felt like the most important person in the world, and if he said no, this show would crumble and it wouldn't go on. And he said he does his thing where his arms out and he's screaming, and someone shouts "cut," and then someone goes, "Right, off you go," and the whole crew just go woof, and zoom in on Matt Smith, and suddenly it's him. And David Tennant says, and you just walk off, and you turn around, and everybody's now fangirling over Matt Smith, and he's in your costume, and you're going back to your trailer and going home. He said it's really bizarre. So yeah, you are right with how quickly you do just warm to whoever.
Have you heard the story of how David showed his daughter Doctor Who?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard this. No.
Like, to kind of show like his daughter, like, you know, how Mummy and Daddy met, he showed her it's series 4, isn't it? The Doctor's Daughter.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from that episode onwards, I think his daughter was really hooked on Doctor Who and like David Tennant's era. And then like he remembers like one day kind of walking past the living room and seeing her crying because it was End of Time Part 2, it was him regenerating. And like a week later, she was over it, and Matt Smith was her favorite.
Oh yeah, no, I have heard that. Yeah, no, I love that story. Yeah, I'd love it if even George Moffat was like, yeah, he's not that
bad. I mean, Matt Smith's pretty great as well, but that's a while off.
Yeah, that's a while off
before we get to fanboy about Matt Smith.
Okay, so number 4 on my list. This is where it gets exciting because 3 of these are the same and 1 is very different. So number 4 on my list, I have Love and Monsters.
Only number 4.
Oh, right. So I have Love and Monsters at number 4. It's a fun, silly, has great music. I love the home videos with Elton. Like the opening where he's going, I'm in bed and my window's blown up and I've got no shoes or slippers and I have to invent this rudimentary pulley system just to get me slippers. I mean, it's great. He's a really great character. I'd love him so much to come back. I'd put it maybe slightly lower because there isn't that much monster in it. Also, I'm trying not to be swayed by the fact that we spoke to Channel Pup, Willie and Grantham about that. Because we did that afterwards, but a lot of that's now influenced how much I really like this episode because I know the behind-the-scenes story for it, but I can't let that interfere. But yeah, no, the episodes that come after this are ranked higher in my list because usually of personal reasons why I really love those episodes. But also I love this episode so much. It's really hard. This is the most fun episode of Doctor Who in this series for me, and no episode on this list is more fun. The rest, the remaining 3 are not more fun, but they are more well-developed episodes.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I disagree with you, but yeah.
Okay, so what do you have?
Okay. My number 4 is Army of Ghosts.
Oh, okay. So you have that much higher than me.
Yeah, I think it's because, I mean, first of all, I think kind of its link to Doomsday did influence me, but also, there's a lot of stuff I like in this episode. I feel like they're starting to get the introduction to kind of the fact that this is kind of the end. We're coming to the end of Rose's arc. That she's now become very much like the Doctor. Also, this point of she's outgrowing him.
Yeah.
Of course, the whole idea of this Army of Ghosts, I think, is actually very interesting and very cool. And kind of the way that the 10th Doctor talks about it and how they have no evidence that these are the people they've lost, but they just want to believe so hard that they conjure up these things. I think that's really cool. Of course, the introduction of Torchwood is really interesting. And then that finale where like Mickey's there, the Murray Goldbuska's pumping up, the Cybermen are all appearing, and the thing opens and exterminate. I think it's the best cliffhanger possibly in all of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
it's just so good. It just gets me so pumped. It's so hard not to go to the next episode immediately after because it just gets you so pumped.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like just that emotional reaction about that one point probably influenced me maybe a bit more than it should have. Yeah. But I don't care.
So that was your different episode, and this is my different episode in the top 3 now even. Yeah. Girl in the Fireplace is my number 3. I really like this episode a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's the only episode of Doctor Who that I watched as a kid that scared me, and it's the one scene where the Doctor comes through the fireplace and Madame de Pompadour is sat on a bed as like a little 8-year-old girl, and the Doctor's looking under the bed, and you can't make out if something's under there, and then the robot arm just shoots out, and then he crawls out and he follows the Doctor around. And I remember that one shot of its arm sticking out from under the bed freaks me out loads as a kid. David Tennant's really good in it. He's funny when he's drunk, and when he is heartbroken at the end because Madame de Pompadour is dead. That's a really moving scene, and I would hope. Well, I say I hope because a friend of the show, Dominic Martin, is doing a What If series on his YouTube channel in the near future, and I hope he touches on what if she had joined the TARDIS. That would have been interesting. Also, it's great to see Mickey and Rose together because this is early on in the series when there is maybe a connection there still. But yeah, I also like the fact it's not necessarily a happy ending for them, and the fact that he keeps that letter and he does, and Rose and Mickey can tell something's wrong. And it's the first time you really see the Doctor publicly upset in front of Rose and Mickey, but he doesn't tell them why, and he just, you know what I mean? It's just really well done.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I can't say you're wrong. I don't know. The episode doesn't make me feel like the stuff with the ending of Madame de Pompadour. For some reason, I don't feel it doesn't make me. It doesn't give me the same emotional reaction that it gave you, and I don't know what along the line did make me connect in that way. But I can't disagree with anything you said. All the positive you said, I totally agree with.
Yeah.
You know, this is a strong episode. I wouldn't like get angry or annoyed at anyone for loving it. You know.
So our top two. We're into our top. Sorry, no, you need to do your number 3, don't you? My apologies. Yeah.
Yes, my number 3. I don't know why I didn't put it with Army of Ghosts because my number 3 is Doomsday.
Oh wow! Okay, so there's only one episode really where we could both have the same number 1 spot. Okay, so go for it. Why Doomsday number 3?
Doomsday at number 3 is a great finale. Daleks and Cybermen ping off against each other. Don't know why that hadn't happened before now, but it's great that it did. Yeah, them having a little like argument between them. So much fun. Like, you know, I can't get enough of Nicholas Briggs's vocal performances in either role. The introduction to the cult of Skaro. Yeah. Is that their name? Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's just a really cool concept. Obviously, losing Rose at the end, it's an iconic moment now. Yeah. It's like one of the most, if not the most iconic kind of parts of Doctor Who, and it's great and it holds up, and it's still, you know, it still does hurt quite a bit to see that separation.
Yeah.
Like they could have. I feel like they could have easily kept Rose for another series, and no one would have complained. Yeah. No one would have complained. You know?
I think that scene at the end would have. I couldn't help but think a lot of the time watching the series how much more emotional that end scene would have been if it was Chris.
You're right. I agree with that.
It would have been amazing, and maybe that's one reason why it didn't catch me as much as I thought it would. But we'll get into that. I'll get into that a bit later.
Yeah. Do you associate kind of Rose now as the 9th Doctor's companion more so than the 10th Doctor's?
Yeah, it's the 9 and Rose for me, and then 10. Well, we're going to find out, but I imagine it's going to be 10 and Martha. But yeah, whenever I think of Rose and the Doctor, I instantly think of David because that's what everybody thinks of. It's what everybody's known. But the peak of that friendship and the best stories with them are series 1 with Chris. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, so here we go. The top 2. We both have one episode remaining that we both haven't said yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if we've put that number 1 on number 2. I'm really hoping we've both gone the same. Number 2 for me, I have put Doomsday at number 2 for one reason only. It was the very first episode of Doctor Who I ever saw. And I know I said I was trying not to let outside things persuade me, or swayed me even, when ranking this list, either if we've talked to cast and crew or stuff like this, but it's my first episode of Doctor Who. I couldn't not put it in the top 3. And every reason you just gave, it's a really fun episode. It's led on to very well by Army of Ghosts, Daleks, Cybermen, Yvonne Hartman, Mickey, Jackie, Pete, Jake comes back. That's great. Going to the parallel Earth briefly, the Doctor and Rose saying goodbye, and then the cliffhanger at the end with Catherine Tate as Donna. It's just a really fun episode, but more than anything, it is because it was the start of a very weird thing that Doctor Who created. And probably if I hadn't seen it, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. So it has to be high.
It's interesting that you say that the fact it was your first episode influenced you, because my first ever episode was New Earth, and that's at number 7. That didn't influence my decision at all.
Well, that's maybe because you then went on and saw every episode in chronological order afterwards. I hadn't seen anything. This was it. I was like, what the F is going on?
Like, obviously, obviously I loved Doctor Who as a kid, but I didn't properly kind of invest in the show properly until 2017 when I watched the show from Rose onwards.
Yeah.
So that probably is why I don't have the same kind of connection.
Yeah. So
whereas you've kind of consistently been a fan of the show, haven't you?
Yeah. So you're number 2. I am going to guess that your number 2 is Love and Monsters.
Tim, I'm sorry. Our lists are completely different. My number 2 is School Reunion.
What? Oh my goodness! Not one overlapping common episode. Wow. Go on. Why School Reunion number 2? It's
just, it's such a lovely episode. Like, even without watching any of her in Classic Who, it's Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane. You just kind of instantly fall in love with her character. She's just so lovely, so endearing. And she's such I've not watched any of her stories with Tom Baker, but her with Tennant's episode, you can understand why she works so well as a companion. Like, she's supportive, but she also pushes him and challenges him and like wills for him to do the right thing. And then just kind of, it's such a great kind of interesting conversation that I'm not sure had ever been had in the show before, about the fact that the companions leave and that one day the Doctor will leave them and move on. And I don't know if that was something that had ever been really touched upon by the show before this episode. And it's a really interesting thing. And it's kind of, in New Who, it's become kind of one of the defining kind of traits of the Doctor companion relationship, the fact that it's only temporary.
Yeah.
Like, even now, like in the last episode we had Air Revolution of the Daleks, like that was brought up, that the Doctor leaves.
Yeah.
And really it all comes, as far as I'm aware, the origin of that whole thing is with this episode, because that's such like an interesting element.
Yeah, well, this is my number 1. So I'll follow on from what you said there. I loved it so much. It was a really beautiful episode, not just because of Elizabeth Sladen, but also David. It's weird because you would think that because it's not Tom Baker, the connection isn't there and you won't feel a connection. But when you see David's Doctor and Sarah together, it's the Doctor and Sarah. And knowing the history of the show and how important that is to the show is great. And also the ending where they say goodbye and they have that big hug, I think it's lovely. And K9 being there, and the relationship between Rose and Sarah, how they're butting heads at the start and then they quickly become friends, and their friendship leads to a moment where the Doctor and Rose butt heads. So one butting head and a friendship leads to the Doctor where he's telling Rose that she can spend the rest of her life with him, but he can't spend the rest of his life with her. Like you said, foreshadowing what is to come. But yeah, I love this episode. It's such a fun episode.
I mean, you just remind me just now, like, about David Tennant and his relationship with Sarah Jane. I was thinking of that line when he says to her for the first time, "Hello, Sarah Jane."
Yeah.
With that recognition. And I mean, that was Tennant's first series, that was his first series as the Doctor. But
the first episode he filmed after Christmas Invasion.
Really? That's insane because like when he says that line, like you feel the weight, you feel the history. And considering like he'd barely started in the role and he achieved that much. I mean, I guess a lot of it is an attribute to the fact that he grew up watching Sarah Jane on the show.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I really love the scene where he's introduced to her and she doesn't know who he is. And he's like, just got this big grin on his face. It is that Tom Baker grin coming through David Tennant, which I absolutely love. I'm just trying to work out, right, how long it would have been from Sarah leaving to appearing in this episode and how many years, and what would be our Sarah Jane Smith? What will be when we're, let's say, 25, 30 years in the future, or 15 now, so 15 years on, Doctor Who's been back for 15 years, 15 years time, who will be our Sarah Jane? It's Rose, isn't it?
I mean, I don't feel Sarah Jane is kind of pretty universally recognized in New Who as kind of like being like the best companion.
Yeah.
I like Rose is probably like the most well-known companion of New Who, but I'd be hard pressed to say she's the best. Like she's great. I love Billie Piper. I love her in this role, but there are companions down the line, especially in Russell's era, who I like more. It's hard. I feel like there's a lot more kind of differing opinions when it comes to New Who and the companions. I don't know if there is kind of one definitive best companion.
That's what I was just thinking, because after that you've got Martha and Donna. They were only around for one series, so they're not going to have the same emotional impact. Amy and Rory.
Or Rory.
They maybe overstayed their welcome too much. Same with Clara. Then Bill wasn't around long enough. And Yaz, Ryan and Graham, not everybody's a big fan of theirs. So I don't know. Just bring back Mickey.
Noddle.
Yeah, just bring back Noddle.
Noddle and Mickey, man.
I'll be up for that. So your number one episode, Harry, is Love and Monsters.
Yes, I love and monsters this episode. Sorry. No, I mean, everything you said is just kind of this big love letter to Doctor Who, and just like the people who love Doctor Who and how people have been brought together because of Doctor Who, and the fact that the monster in it is created by, a young fan of Doctor Who adds to that. Yeah. And just Elton and the whole Linda crew are just such an endearing group. And I don't know, this episode it works so well. I feel like this is an episode you could show to even someone who doesn't like Doctor Who. I feel like you could show them this and there'd be something for them to get out of it.
Yeah. I just thought we should have called this podcast Linda United. That would have been a better name.
What would Linda stand? Maybe. Oh.
London Investigation.
But those are big shoes to fill. Those are really big shoes for us to fill, Tim.
Yeah. I just think it's a better name, because I know you're not a big fan of Big on the Inside. Also, I'd like to point out, I only recently realised, I don't think you'd realised either, is that most of our videos for Series 2 had an intro in which Bigger was spelt wrong, and it had one G in it. And it wasn't until about a week ago I realised that I had to go back and re-edit the upcoming videos. So for anybody listening to this who's wondered why like the first batch of Series 2 videos have Bigger spelt with a 1G, I typed it wrong and none of us have realised since.
I normally have a decent eye for those typos, but I missed that completely.
Yeah, I did as well, yeah. And I see it every day.
We have a better name now. Now we're Biger on the inside. Or Biger. We're Biger on the inside. That's our new... It's more original.
It is. So very different lists. I know last time our number one was Dalek.
I thought we were both going to put Love and Monsters as our number one.
I couldn't do it.
I was convinced. You couldn't do it. I was convinced you were going to... But you even said when we reviewed it that you thought this was the best episode of the series so far.
Yeah, but that's me, and I've got to think about the whole show and how each episode works in the show. It was the most fun episode of the series. It's the one I had the most fun with, and the one I smiled all the way through. But it didn't have the emotional impact that Doomsday.
But Elton and his mum and his girlfriend, and she. Oh,
Oh well.
Ellen gets it rough, man. And then like the scenes with Ellen and Jackie, like you can't say you don't feel for Jackie in those episodes.
Let us know.
And
they
could have just been mates. They could have been great mates, man. They could have been mates, but Ellen has to screw it up.
Let us know in the comments what your ranking of series 2 was, or maybe where you disagree with us, and leave some lovely hate in the comments about how wrong we are. Now we don't understand the show.
I can't believe you put Girl in the Fireplace at number 12, Harry.
And then put Love and Monsters at number 1.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not a conventional Doctor 2 fan who thinks Love and Monsters is 11 episodes better than Girl in the Fireplace.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Talking of Love and Monsters, if you want to go listen to our interview with William Grantham, it came out on the day of recording this, so it'll definitely be out by the time this video comes out. Anything else that you want to say? Oh, series. Okay, so I may as well give a quick update on what's to come. Series 3 is coming. It will be the next batch of videos after this. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you listen to this on iTunes, I may upload a few things on there. There's maybe 2 or 3 weeks in between series 2 and 3 with videos in those weeks that aren't related to either of those seasons. They're kind of special videos I've been working on that we can do just to separate the 2 seasons, really. And then after that, it's going to be series 3 all the way through. Cool.
Very cool. I mean, you're the one who does all the planning and the admin. Like, you're the one who runs the channel.
Like we've got videos planned all the way till I think about August, so there's a lot coming out.
Yeah, like when's this episode scheduled to come out?
4 weeks time, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so quite a while off yet, but it approaches faster than I would like, because we were sort of able to take sort of a week off, really, from 1 or 2 weeks off.
Which is good for me, because I had work to do.
Yeah. Anyway, so let us know in the comments, and thanks very much for watching, guys, and listening. I'll say goodbye. Harry, do you want to say goodbye?
Bye-bye.
Make sure you subscribe to the official Bigger on the Inside podcast.